Welcome to Elevate 2023. We are honored to commence our keynote with Armin Mazda, the CEO of Appeon.
Good morning. We're really excited to see so many of you online to learn about how Appeon is moving PowerBuilder forward and help you all to elevate your apps, skills, and contacts. Since 2016, when we took over PowerBuilder, we have focused to evolve PowerBuilder's core features, application UI and user experience, its architecture with cloud native, as well as help boost developer productivity. The 2017 line of the product was to ensure smooth transition for SAP customers to a newer supported version of PowerBuilder so that mission-critical systems continue to run smoothly. Once we got customers transitioned over, we really began our evolution of PowerBuilder. In both the 2019 and 2021 lines of the product, we majorly expanded the product's capabilities. And at the 5-year mark with PowerBuilder 22, we put focus to really refine all the changes made over the years to give you not only the best version of PowerBuilder ever, but also the most stable. So if you want to try any of the new features or simply want to upgrade to a newer supported version, the latest version is really what you should use. Over the last several years, I have had the opportunity to talk to thousands of PowerBuilder customers. The PowerBuilder base is quite diverse. Some are small companies that tend to be early adopters of the evolutions we make to the product. Others are Fortune 500 companies that tend to be more conservative. And we have everything in between that you could imagine across virtually every single industry. Some have small teams, as little as a single PowerBuilder developer. That's how productive PowerBuilder is. And others have a team as large as 300 PowerBuilder developers maintaining dozens of applications. These discussions have given all of us at Appeon insight into customers' projects and their usage of our product. So with this knowledge, I want to highlight some real great evolutions we did to the product that have now been refined to the point in the latest 2022 product line that even the most conservative customers really should consider to utilize so you can elevate your applications. Core features, especially as they relate to client-server projects, is a primary focus for Appeon. I really don't think there's a single release we ever did that didn't bring some new core features to the table. There are a lot of important things we did that is not exciting, but keeps our customers' app running smoothly, such as supporting new Windows and database versions, fixing legacy bugs from years ago that Appeon inherited, and addressing security concerns. But one game-changer core feature that I see has totally transformed customers' apps that have adopted it is the ability to call web APIs. Web APIs open up a whole new world of functionality that can be added to your applications. And these days, you'd be hard-pressed to find something not available as a web API. It has really opened up PowerBuilder and can really evolve your apps. Another core feature I'd like to highlight is PDF. PDF is so core to many business processes that we felt PowerBuilder should do this natively rather than rely on a PDF printer as a workaround. So in 2017, we introduced the native PDF feature. It's built in, available in all editions of PowerBuilder at no additional cost. It's simply a part of your application with some additional runtime DLLs that do not require elevated security privileges. And we kept pushing forward, evolving PowerBuilder's PDF capabilities. Now in the new PDF Builder classes added in 2022 R2, you can go way beyond simply saving a PDF and actually manipulate them, such as merging, attaching files, creating document links, making forms fillable, adding security restrictions, watermarks, and so on. There's a lot that you can do now beyond simply saving a PDF. The UI is often overlooked by many developers, and historically, PowerBuilder itself has also been guilty of not equipping you to do so. But if we don't deliver a good UI and UX to the business users, unfortunately, they're going to judge a book by its cover. Business users aren't going to appreciate how sophisticated your SQL or PowerScript logic is. They're just going to feel the app is outdated and difficult to use, and therefore they're going to favor a new system. So we put a lot of focus at Appeon, how to evolve PowerBuilder's UI in a codeless way. Through a simple property configuration of the UI themes feature, you can apply style sheets to reskin your app. And through another simple property configuration of the tab view MDI, you can render your Windows sheets in a tab metaphor. That is a de facto standard these days for doing MDI. When it came to creating web APIs, we wanted to evolve the product with a true .NET implementation that would not be a black box or hold customers back in any way. It was a big investment we made, but we really saw no way to salvage any of the old .NET Web Service targets introduced in PB11. With that said, it was a top priority to preserve the core of PowerBuilder that makes sense in the context of what a web API does. So we set out to recreate all the great functionality of the PowerScript data store, which is a non-visual data window. And we did so as 100% managed code for the .NET Core framework and adhering to a cloud-native architecture. Pretty much there's a one-to-one mapping of all the properties, events, and functions of the data store. So although you're coding in C#, you're writing familiar code that is far fewer lines and easier to understand than coding against the entity framework. To complete PowerBuilder's evolution to the cloud, the client side also needed to be addressed. Let's not kid ourselves. Making PowerBuilder apps internet accessible through remote desktop technology is still client-server at the end of the day. Not to mention, running client-server apps on a remote desktop has a whole host of problems, including horrendous scalability issues, functionality issues, security vulnerabilities, and high licensing costs. So we made major investments to evolve PowerBuilder from a great client-server development tool to a great cloud app development tool. In PowerBuilder 21, we introduced a new PowerServer deployment option that essentially recompiles any existing client-server project as a cloud app. We made the design choice to keep the UI as a native Windows app rather than HTML, so you aren't dumbing down your app's functionality or having to do any major rewrite of your code. There really is no faster, easier way to modernize your app's architecture. Later today, you will hear from one of our customers about their experience transitioning from a traditional client-server deployment to a PowerServer deployment. The PowerBuilder IDE itself has also been evolving. Starting with PowerBuilder 2019 R3, we decoupled the runtime from the IDE. This means you can independently upgrade each piece as you see fit for your project. But the game changer is you can have a single version of the IDE supporting multiple runtime versions. Many of our customers have multiple apps, even dozens and dozens of apps. Not all of them can be upgraded to the same version at the same time due to their resource restrictions and timeframes. So even for customers with a single app, still there are situations you may want to test a new maintenance release or revision, while in production you're maintaining the app on a previous build, and easily roll back if you find problems simply by recompiling your project. Now that the IDE supports multiple runtime versions, you're able to do so very easily. Another evolution we did with the IDE is to make it CI/CD compatible. We introduced a PB Auto Build utility, which is basically like Orca but on steroids. It's a standalone utility, does not require the PowerBuilder IDE to be installed, and it can be incorporated into a fully automated process to create an end-to-end CI/CD pipeline. It can connect to Git or SVN source control, obtain your source code, generate the pibbles, perform the compile, and even natively integrate with Jenkins if you're using that, which is totally optional. And unlike Orca, it supports all of the PowerBuilder project types, including PowerServer deployment. While we have evolved PowerBuilder a lot over the last several years since we took over the product, we haven't put equal focus on improving developer productivity. This was intentional because we first must make sure our customers' existing apps are delivering the key functionality that the business users demand with the right architecture for today's internet-accessible world. But we have been saying all along that developer productivity is a key focus of the product roadmap, and we do take all those focus areas seriously. So now we are shifting gears at Appeon and making major investments to revamp the development experience, which you will be able to try in PowerBuilder 2025. Our product manager, Julie, will share with you more details about this, followed by a sneak peek of PowerBuilder 2025. One final remark I want to make. All of us at Appeon really appreciate all the interest and excitement around the PowerBuilder product after so many years. I have seen customers tell me that Appeon reminds them of the PowerSoft days. That's a great compliment. I have had other customers tell me that the latest version of PowerBuilder is the best ever they have used. We have a number of great tech sessions planned after the keynote, and I hope those sessions will help all of you to upgrade to the latest version of PowerBuilder and start implementing some of the new features to elevate your app, skills, and contact. Thank you very much.
Now we extend a warm welcome to Jose Miguel Rodriguez from the Provincial Council of Almeria. Jose will share their experience with PowerServer.
Hello everyone and welcome to Elevate 2023. I'm Jose Miguel Rodriguez. Today I'm going to tell you how the Provincial Council of Almeria used PowerServer to adapt to the changing needs. First, disclaimer. This presentation was authored by me. This is not a work for hire by Appeon. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation under my own. A little bit about myself. I'm Jose Miguel Rodriguez, part of the development team of the Provincial Council of Almeria. I joined the public administration about 5 years ago, and I am responsible for the PowerServer migration of all in-house projects. Previously, I worked in private companies for more than 20 years, developing in different languages and mainly in the commercial management sector. My experience in programming languages such as Visual Basic, on the platform.net, etc., made the adaptation to PowerBuilder very simple. Almost from the first day, as we say, productive in the PowerBuilder environment. Here is a little bit about my company. I work for the Provincial Council of Almeria, which is the provincial government of the province of Almeria, in the autonomous community of Andalusia in Spain. Currently, we have 2 development departments. One is for Java and the other is for the PowerBuilder. The PowerBuilder team has 6 developers and manages over 40 PB apps. My first encounter with PowerBuilder was 5 years ago with PowerBuilder 12.5. And my colleagues have been working with PowerBuilder for quite some time and have extensive experience, having gone through almost all PowerBuilder versions. Now let me give you a little list as an example so you can see the type of applications we typically work with. For example, we have one called Guest Plan, which manages all the works of the provincial plans of the deputation. With this application, we control every aspect of the works, from initiation to completion, including certifications, projects, and so on. The entire life cycle of a work is covered by this application. Then we have GCL, an application for contract management across the deputation and the public city council, that links to the state contracting platform. Mandatory nowadays when publishing a contract. Cafe is used for financial assistance and subsidies calls. And so on with more than 40 applications. Well, now I'm going to tell you about how we have been adapting to PowerServer. The first stage, which lasted until recently, involved running the applications through Terminal Server. We had several servers on Windows Server and load balancing. In this stage, clients connected mainly through Terminal Server and were already on the network. We had simple administration, because we placed and used the applications on the servers we had in the base. Security was through Microsoft Active Directory and actually worked perfectly. However, we faced two problems, one with printing via RDP, which, as I suppose many of you have encountered when printing through RDP printers. We solved that using UniPrint. The other issue was licensing. As the number of municipalities and personnel using the applications increased, we had to keep an eye on licenses frequently. This has been the mode of operation for PowerBuilder applications. Then we came to the second stage. The first big change we introduced was the PowerServer Web. PowerServer Web aimed to run an application in a browser with minimal changes to the code. It was an attractive idea, and we embraced it from the first day. It allowed us to move away from Terminal Server and also eliminate UniPrint. However, we didn't use PowerServer until the multi-browser plugin was available, because we wanted to be able to use it in any browser, not to be limited to a specific one. We started with the most basic applications and moved them to PowerServer. Except for some minor adjustments we made in a short time, they worked perfectly. However, we encountered two issues. One was that browsers often updated security measures, which could prevent the installation or the launch of the browser plugin. This required us to introduce new security policies. And that was one of the inconveniences we saw with PowerServer Web. The second issue was related to the rich text control which we used for our template system RTF files. In PowerServer 2019, the control had a bug that caused errors when we combined fields of the rich text with values. We contacted technical support, Marco and Jose Carlos, and after extensive testing and verification, they confirmed the problem and informed us that it would not be fixed until the next version of PowerServer. So we had two options. Either to give up PowerServer for certain applications that used the template system, which were quite a few, or change the template system. We chose the latter, because we strongly believed in accessing the app via browser. So we converted the entire .rtf system to .docs, and stopped using rich text for combining fields. Instead, we did it directly through web services. This was what we did to continue using PowerServer, adapting our applications to this change. Over time, this change was appreciated by all users because now our template combination system is straightforward. Users create their own templates using a docs file, and it works perfectly. Therefore, we later converted almost all of them to PowerServer. That was the first major change within the deputation with PowerServer. Then PowerServer 2021 came and it was another big change within the County Council. For me, PowerServer 21 marked a bit of a turning point for Appeon, as it introduced a change in philosophy, infrastructure, and architecture. The change was a radical shift that required a lot of learning because, as I mentioned, it changed from the deployment system, delving more into the information server, and seeing it from the inside. And of course, if we wanted to make the most of PowerServer 21, we had to enter the world of .NET with Snap Develop that Appeon offered. To take advantage of its features, you have to go through .NET, but it's something very simple and worthwhile. So all this effort that I'm talking about, this change in philosophy, infrastructure, seeing everything from the inside, many tests, and so on, from our point of view, is worthwhile. Why is it worthwhile? There are several reasons, many of them are very important. In PowerServer Web days, only about 60% of the client-server app code can be directly adapted and worked in the browser. Then, there was also a change in the interface because what was done for PowerServer was a bit of a transformation to Java. The interface changed a bit compared to how it looked in a client-server application. Many of our users would ask, "Hey, why does this look like this?" Sometimes even certain actions differed slightly between the client-server app and the web app. Okay. Now, all these little issues I'm talking about, functionality, interface, and behavior, were resolved in PowerServer 21. This is what makes diving into PowerServer 21 totally worthwhile. I mean, practically 98% to 99% of all our lines of code and functionalities work well with PowerServer. Just this fact alone is enough reason to go for it. The interface is 100%. Plus, we completely eliminated the plugin in our application's execution, which sidesteps the growing security demands browsers impose when dealing with plugins. PowerServer 21 also gives us much greater scalability. This means the application runs on the client machine as a native application, and we have all the client resources at our disposal. In my opinion, this version was very ambitious but a bit immature. We were the first to make the leap to PowerServer 21. I personally experienced it, and we were all in 100%. We were among those who did a bit of trial and error, and we were the ones who took the hits to implement it. For me, this represents a radical change, and I see it as a significant marker in PowerBuilder's strategic direction for the future. I think 21 was a transitional version leading up to the current PowerBuilder version, namely, version 22R2. PowerServer 2022R2 is already a clear and mature version that you can rely on. It's an improved version compared to 21, much more stable, faster in execution, and more secure. It also solves many of the problems of the version 21. So, I consider that 22R2 is already a definitive version. We at the deputation are already finishing the migration of almost all applications to 22R2 because of its stability. If someone were to ask me, should you migrate the application to PowerServer 21? I'd advise them, no, hold off for now. However, when it comes to 22R2, and they wonder if it's worth migrating, I'd confidently say, yes, absolutely. It's stable, and it fulfills all the criteria for a secure migration. I can confirm this because I lived through it. And I also wanted to comment on the support. In a business environment, or in the field of public administration, as is our case in the Provincial Council, having reliable technical support is crucial for providing us with a sense of security and confidence. I am referring to a team that will respond to any incident that may arise. It is essential that the support allows us to respond immediately to issues or incidents that affect critical corporate applications. In this regard, I want to thank the team of Jose, Carlos, and Marco for all the help we have had from them when it comes to supporting us. They have given us support from basic problems to serious problems, which have even involved Appeon support, and they have solved the problems for us. So, that's our journey with PowerServer, as I mentioned earlier. Currently, we're in the final stages of migrating to 22R2. Thank you all for your attention and enjoy your Elevate.
Next, we welcome Julie, the product manager of Appeon. Julie will guide us through the product roadmap and share market research her team did.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. I'm truly honored today to share with you the exciting details of our team's plan for the next stage in the development of PowerBuilder. We value your interest in PowerBuilder and are dedicated to keeping you well informed about our plans. In our commitment to transparency, it's important to note our plans may undergo adjustments in response to evolving technologies, market conditions, or feedback from valued customers like you. Our team's target this year is to deliver the R2 and R3 versions for the major version 2022. The progress in the product has been uneventful, yet steady and interesting. We've been actively engaged in internal refactoring and rigorous bug fixes to enhance the overall quality and performance of our product. Internal refactoring involves optimizing the underlying structure of our code, which, although not always visible, significantly contributes to the product's stability, efficiency, and future scalability. Simultaneously, we've been addressing and resolving various bugs, especially long-standing legacy bugs, to ensure a smoother and more seamless user experience. Considering WebView 2 is a Microsoft product that has consistent update and support, we have changed the engine for the web browser control from CEF to WebView 2. We believe this will contribute to a more reliable and secure user experience over time. Our emphasis for revisions is on adding smaller, meaningful improvements. So, in 2022 R2, there are no game-changing features, but we have added features such as tabbed view for MDI sheets, modern graph look, a dedicated native email object, and rich text edit and PDF generation enhancements. These improvements underscore our ongoing commitment to enhancing the product's utility to ensure that our users derive even greater value from the product. We firmly believe ease of use is important to both the PowerBuilder developers and end users. Upon the introduction of a new feature in our product, our engineering team doesn't consider it the final step. Instead, we embark on a continuous journey to explore and implement potential enhancements, ensuring that the feature not only exists, but is also seamlessly integrated and easy to use. This ongoing commitment reflects our dedication to delivering a consistently user-friendly experience. That's why we worked out these features this year: auto-filtering of drop-downs and the PowerServer enhancements, including deployment refactoring and the ultra-fast build option. Around the end of this year, we will deliver 2022 R3. It's the third LTS version ever since Appeon took over PowerBuilder. The last two were 2017 R3 LTS delivered in 2018 and the 2019 R3 LTS delivered in 2021. The 2022 R3 LTS version embodies a suite of transformative changes accumulated through successive releases, including the new deployment options, modern UI enhancements, and a multitude of core features. As this version will be a long-term support release, our primary focus is on guaranteeing stability. To achieve this, we are adding a number of further enhancements, ensuring the product not only functions reliably, but also provides a robust foundation for an extended period. Specifically, we are adding necessary security upgrades, providing more bug fixes, and are also addressing a few diverse requests. After the launch of the 2022 R3 LTS version, the next big leap would be the major version 2025. Our target is to unveil this release by the end of the year 2024. With each major release, we set a predefined goal for improvement to ensure that every iteration is purposeful with a clear vision of the improvements we aim to achieve. It has been this way from version 2017 to version 2022. Version 2017 is the first Appeon version. Our goal was to make sure the transition is seamless. In version 2019, we had major renovations on the UI modernization and the cloud development capability. Version 2021 is the first version that we introduced the new PowerServer for cloud deployment. In version 2022, we have diligently strengthened the product core features and security from every conceivable aspect. Now, let's find out what we have in store for version 2025. The focal point of this version revolves around the main goal that was set a long time ago, revamping the development experiences. Based on the valuable feedbacks gathered over time, we have identified these key areas that stand out as the most desired for the goal: a modern editor, a new and faster compiler, plain text source, and a 64-bit IDE. The feedback on the legacy editor has been abundantly clear. It's outdated and has garnered numerous complaints. We are committed to addressing these concerns by developing a new, modernized editor that will significantly elevate the user experience and mitigate the issues associated with the outdated legacy system. The new editor will be a complete replacement. We are committed to a seamless transition from the old editor to the new, ensuring that all existing functionalities are preserved. Beyond this preservation, we will introduce modern editor features that enhance and expand the capabilities, providing users with a refreshed and enriched coding experience. Better code readability. All these common but non-missing features will become available in this editor for better code readability: syntax coloring, code highlighting, associated line numbers, zoom in and out, collapsible conditional statements, and status bar. Better code navigation. We will introduce features to facilitate seamless code navigation, including find and replace, improved jump to functionality, change tracking, error stripe, find reference, and bookmark. Higher coding efficiency. We recognize the importance of enhancing editing efficiency and are motivated to take all possible measures for users to achieve their tasks with greater speed and precision. Therefore, we plan to support these features in the editor: word wrap, better comment, uncomment, format document or selection, toggle cases, and brace matching. Coding assistance capability. The coding assistance capability in the old editor is minimal, leaving ample space for improvement. We studied other leading editors in the market. Our aim is to incorporate similar code assisting features into our product, aligning with industry standards and offering our users a more intuitive coding experience. We will start with these features: complete list, coding snippets, quick info, parameter info, and viewing the definition of a type or member. The old PowerBuilder compiler works very slowly. The full build of a fairly complicated application may take several hours. The incremental build is not truly incremental, so even a minor code change can lead to a prolonged wait for the completion of the incremental build. The new compiler represents a comprehensive overhaul aimed at addressing the underlying issues from their core. The combination process will run in parallel with the IDE process, and it can work in multiple process and multiple thread mode. The separation of the combination process from the IDE ensures that they no longer interfere with each other, thereby minimizing the occurrence of IDE crashes. The new compiler scans every piece of PowerScript source code for only one time. During the scan, it creates an AST, that is, abstract syntax tree, for every source code file. ASTs provide a structured and hierarchical representation of the syntax of the code. The AST traversal is much faster than code scan. The new compiler takes a proactive approach by caching essential information in each combination, which includes forward dependencies of objects, reverse dependencies, and last modified dates. This caching allows the incremental build process to precisely identify modified objects and code and formulate a comprehensive list of files that requires rebuilding. Finally, the compiler executes the build process against this refined list. As a result of the aforementioned changes, the time savings achieved with the new compiler are noticeable in both full and incremental combination. Our initial performance tests indicate that full combination can be at least 3 times faster, and incremental combination requires only a fraction of the time compared to the previous process. Let's take a glance at the current performance statistics from our lab, and you will see I'm not boasting. There have been complaints regarding the limitations and hassles associated with the people format in PowerBuilder. A single people file tightly couples the source code and compiled code, thereby increasing the risk of file corruption. Additionally, the unique people format cannot be manipulated by other external tools and cannot be directly used with Git or SVN source control. You can continue to use the people if you prefer. If you wish to transition to plain text source code, the auto-conversion process entails the following changes. Each people file is transformed into a folder with an identical name. The source code and P code are separated and saved at a granular level. Because the source code no longer exists in the same file as P code, any issues during compilation will no longer risk corrupting the entire people, preventing potential work loss. After converting the source code to plain text, the resulting text files can be seamlessly managed using source control systems such as Git or SVN. This eliminates the challenges associated with people upload, download, and merging processes. Furthermore, the text files are open to other external tools, allowing for more convenient code modification. There is a growing need to transition the PowerBuilder IDE to a 64-bit architecture to meet the demands of modern software development and align with industry standards. Our team is actively working on this transition. In version 2022, we introduced the capability to run and debug 64-bit applications directly within the IDE, showcasing our commitment to a substantial transition in support of 64-bit applications. There are still several important tasks pending on our agenda for 64-bit support. We plan to systematically address these tasks throughout version 2025 and its subsequent revisions. Specifically, direct connection to 64-bit database in the IDE, call to 64-bit DLLs OCX in the IDE, and ultimately providing the IDE.exe in 64-bit and also providing other tools, for example, Orca.exe in 64-bit. The primary focus of version 2025 is to enhance developer productivity. In addition to this goal, we aim to improve the product in the following ways. More IDE features. We understand that even subtle changes in the IDE can have a profound impact on the developer's daily workflow. Therefore, we have been closely monitoring feature requests from PowerBuilder developers and intend to diligently incorporate non-desired features. While it's possible that we may add more features along the way, these are the features currently in the plan. open ancestor and descendant objects at the same time in the IDE. Further enhancements to the tabbed editor. Retain the DW update properties during changes to a multi-table query. Provide the native merge branch function for Git source control. More resizing for dialogues in the IDE. More comprehensive search functionality. Check for duplicate objects in the target. We aim to introduce additional runtime and UI modernization features to empower PowerBuilder developers in creating more robust and dynamic applications more easily. After dedicating several years of effort in this area, our to-do list is steadily shrinking. Here are the top items currently prioritized. Display menu in ribbon bar style through simple settings. Implement WYSIWYG support when exporting a data window to Excel. Enable applications to be DPI aware and scale its UI elements on larger screens. Explore the addition of more UI controls for modernization. Since taking over PowerBuilder, our company has embarked on the pursuit of a native cloud architecture. The concept turned into the new PowerServer solution in version 2021. Up until today, the new PowerServer has undergone 2 main rounds of enhancements. Based on the feedback from our customers, PowerServer now operates with stability, facilitates significantly faster application deployment, and stands as a secure solution. Going forward, our goal is to make PowerServer even more user-friendly, catering to a broader range of projects. To achieve this goal, we have plans to support SQL Preview. Despite the challenges associated with supporting SQL Preview in a cloud architecture, we recognize the importance in reducing differences and minimizing the need for extensive rewriting. Introduce a PowerServer request debugger. This debugger will facilitate the debugging of deployed applications, providing valuable insights for developers. Develop a backend management console. This console will assist PowerServer administrators in efficiently managing the deployed applications. Last but not least, our team is dedicated to the utmost responsibility of maintaining the product, ensuring its sustainability, stability, and security. I won't reiterate all the requirements from our internal product requirements document that the team must follow. To highlight a few tasks on our to-do list. On sustainability, stay updated on supporting the latest Windows OS. Upgrade the third-party software embedded in the product to the latest stable. On stability, carefully make sure there are no regression bugs compared to previous LTS version. All P0, P1 bugs have been fixed and verified. On security, the product must be compatible with typical customers' corporate firewall, security practices, and browser settings. All product files shall be signed with a trusted certificate. The responsible team must use static code analyzer and leading antivirus software to scan the source code of the products, and also scan source code of all third-party software in the product. During the past month, we conducted a survey to gather feedback on PowerBuilder. I'd like to highlight some noteworthy statistics that I found interesting. What is the version of PowerBuilder you are currently using? More than 30% has already upgraded to 2022 R2. It's encouraging to witness a substantial number of customers swiftly adopting the latest PowerBuilder releases. How would you rate your general satisfaction level with the newest version of PowerBuilder you have tried? Remarkably, 76.3% of respondents consistently reported satisfaction or high satisfaction. Upon comparing statistics across different versions, it's confirmed that version 2022 R2 consistently achieves the highest satisfaction level. What are the primary reasons that drive decisions to upgrade your PowerBuilder version? 62.5% for updating environment support. The results reveal an equal 50% emphasis on both developer productivity and end-user experience. How would you rate your most recent upgrade experience? Again, 76.3% of respondents reported satisfaction or high satisfaction. We surveyed respondents about their inclination towards adopting PowerServer if they have planned to internet deploy their PowerBuilder applications. It's encouraging to see a growing interest among users. Many are contemplating PowerServer as their preferred solution for deploying applications on the internet. Which features on the product roadmap for PowerBuilder 2025 interest you the most? The most liked features are modern IDE editor, new compiler for reducing compilation time, saving source code in plain text. Thank you for your keen interest in the future of PowerBuilder. Your engagement is highly appreciated. As a final note, we encourage you to stay connected with us. You can actively participate in discussions on our community site at community.appion.com or reach out to us via email at product@appion.com.
Lastly, we welcome Chris, Director of Developer Relations at Appeon. Chris will give us a sneak peek of the revamped development experience of PowerBuilder 2025.
Hello and welcome to a sneak peek on PowerBuilder 2025. Hi, I'm Chris Pollock, Director of Developer Relations here at Appion. It's my pleasure today to give you this insight into 2025. Of course, first of all, a disclaimer. Although these features are definitely on the roadmap, what you see today may not be exactly what you see in the GA release. It's basically what we have in a prototype in the development cycle, and this may change between now and the GA release at the discretion of Appion. So let's have a look at what we're going to see today. First of all, a new PowerBuilder compiler. But first we'll look at the legacy compiler that you see here today in 2022 R2, and then compare that to the new compiler. The new compiler converts your application workspace into a solution. So what is that? We'll have to have a look, and we'll give you some demos. And then we'll have a look at the new PowerScript editor. The focus of this particular enhancement, of course, is better code readability, code efficiency, and navigation. And of course, we'll give you a sneak peek, even on 2025 R2, some of the things you can see in the revision after the GA release. Note that the new compiler option will only be available in the Professional or the Cloud Pro editions. Note that you can always go to appion.com developers/roadmap to keep track of exactly what we're doing, because we do enhance that information on a timely basis. So you can always visit that to get the latest and greatest information. So let's first of all have a look at the legacy compiler. It can only work in a single process, single thread mode, because both the source code and the compile code are saved in the same library. The legacy compiler scans every piece of PowerScript source code 5 times, and it takes 7 steps to complete the entire compilation process. So the legacy compiler will also compile data windows one by one. This will be done after completing the PowerScript compilation. And then the legacy compiler runs in the same process as the IDE. If anything goes wrong, of course, we could get a crash at this point during the compilation process. Note, it's not the PowerBuilder IDE. Application is being compiled, or you're writing the application from under the IDE. It's a subtask or subprocess. If that subtask has a problem, even a database driver, which is a subtask of the subtask, and a catch is not done, the operating system basically escalates the problem to the higher level task. And the next thing, of course, is if it doesn't handle it, then guess what? The IDE is the main task, and it gets basically penalized by the operating system. So it's not the IDE's fault sometimes that it crashes, it's just that what's running underneath it. So let's look at the legacy compiler process. Note that we have 7 steps. The first one, of course, is to basically do the type forwarding and backwards for basically looking at the ancestor-descendant relationship. Steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 are just basically rescanning PowerScript code over and over again, enhancing it to the point where we can generate some consistent P code. Then step 6, we do the functions and the event statements, and of course, the data windows one by one are done at the end. All this is basically P code that gets assembled into, as you can see, the output is an executable and PBDs. So what happens here with the new compiler? So we had to rethink that because what we wanted to give you is multiple process, multi-thread mode, so that the source code and the P code is basically stored in separate files and can be processed separately. The new compiler scans every piece of code only once instead of 5 times, and takes 4 steps instead of 7 to complete the entire compilation process. The new compiler creates, of course, abstract syntax tree, which is basically a tracking file. It tracks every source code file and every P code file that has been generated. So it knows, for example, what happened in the last compilation and what's changed since that last compilation. And it only needs to act on what's changed. So the performance boost of the new compiler will be because not only is it only doing what's changed, it's also handling it in a multi-process handling of the P code generation. And the same for data window generation as well. So this is much, much faster than you see in the current compiler. Data window compilation also works in multi-process, so it's concurrent. And both of these things happen outside the process of the IDE. So if something happens during the compilation process, the IDE is not affected like you have today in the workspace paradigm. Note that no changes are required for any client-server, Power Client, or PowerServer app deployment, compilation, build, etc. It automatically, once you convert to a solution, all of this automatically happens in the background for you. So let's have a look at the new compiler architecture. Note at the start of a full build, we generate the AST files, which is basically the tracking files. And we generate that for the source code and the P code. The next thing we do is we have a look at the types and the functions and look at the prototypes, forward and backward, ancestor, descendant. And then we go into basically the multi-process compilation phase. Note that the P code is generated for functions, events, all done in a multi-thread, multi-process here on the first stack on the left-hand side. The data windows are also done in a multi-process mode. So each of the data windows basically has a thread that compiles each data window. And pipelines and queries are also done in this multi-thread, multi-process mode, as well as objects that use object linking embedding. At the end, at the bottom line, all that P code is basically assembled together. And then, of course, again, the output is still an executable and a PBD. Note that machine code is not supported. So let's have a look here at what happens when you convert a workspace to a solution. Notice that the workspace file is converted to a solution. The next thing is the target is converted to a project. All the actual PowerBuilder objects in your PowerBuilder library are then placed into folders, and those folders represent what you wouldn't normally find in a PowerBuilder library. So the source code is now outside the PowerBuilder library, which gives us an opportunity, of course, to use different text editors. You don't just have to stick with the IDE. Of course, before this whole process starts, the first thing it's going to do is create a backup of your workspace, just in case you need it. You notice that the last thing that happens here is actually Keynote. It's doing this in a build object subfolder that it's also created during the conversion. So we'll have a look at that in the demo and see what happens here at that point. So note also that this is a one-way migration. So once it's migrated, you can't go back. You've got to go back to that backup to go back to our workspace mode. So once you're in solution mode. So for this workspace to solution migration demo, I'm going to take an application that I already have in PowerBuilder 2022 R2. And again, you can see here, it's called just a test application. So what I've done here is I've actually created a new folder in my development environment, PowerBuilder 2025. I have two test folders here, test 1 and test 2. Test 1 basically is a copy from 2022 R2 of this application. If we have a look at the deployment folder, this will be where the executable is. But first of all, I need to migrate it. So when I open up that particular workspace, you can see here, it's going to ask me to migrate it. I'm going to say OK. And then if you look at File Explorer, we can see here that we do have a migration log. But there are no error messages down in the output area in the bottom left. So everything looks OK. You'll notice here that there's a project in the system tree. I've already created a new executable, and I've copied it over here to the deployment subfolder. So I can test it what it looks like when I deploy it to a production machine. So if I double click the executable, we can see here this test application is very simple, one window, one data window. It has a split bar on it. It's a grid data window. The retrieve has been done, connection to the demo database. And I have a message box, and I've converted that to say hello from PowerBuilder 2025. Just to give you a simple little test application that we can work into a solution. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically copy everything that you see here over to another folder, which is test 2. And then I'm going to open that and we'll convert it. So going to PowerBuilder 2025 IDE, you can see here that the menu now says Open Workspace or Solutions, so that's new. We're going to go over to the folder Test 2. We're going to open up the workspace exactly the way it was because it's just a copy of Test 1. So now everything looks basically the same it was. I could run it at this point and it will behave exactly the same. But I want to convert this first. So I'm going to use the right-hand mouse button on the workspace, and I'm going to say convert this workspace to a solution. Now basically it's going to create a backup, and the solution is going to be called the name of the application with a PBSLN suffix at this point. So I'm just going to say go ahead. And now the workspace has been converted to a solution. So let's look at the test 2 folder. We can see here that there's a new folder called Upgraded Files, and that's the backup of the workspace. Now I already have a backup in test 1, so you don't have to keep this. It'll do this automatically, but I don't need it because I have a backup. So I can just delete that. The next thing that you'll notice here is that it's created a build subfolder, and it's got objects at this point in there. And notice here that we have 2 folders now. So the libraries that you see or in the workspace have been converted to folders. And if we open up the 2 different folders, we'll see here that the objects have been exported. So here we actually see the P code, the executable code for those data windows of Windows in my example here. If we go back to the main folder, you can see here that the libraries themselves, they also create a folder here in the root. And then, of course, you can see here there is the source for the application and for the project. That in the second library, you can see here the source for the window and the data window. And, of course, you can see here that we now have a solution. So if we open that up in Notepad, we'll see here it's just a standard file. We can see here that it basically sets the target, which is really now PowerBuilder project. The PowerBuilder project has been created as basically a transformation of the target. And now, as you can see here, it has a list of the libraries and a list of the source path for those objects at this point. So now this is what gets converted to a solution and a project. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go to test 2 here. Now it's converted to a solution. And I'm going to basically recompile that application. So there we are. We've now compiled. But if we have a look here now in the file manager, we can see here that the PowerBuilder dynamic libraries, executable, and XML, just like we do with a workspace, has been also compiled and generated from a solution. So I'm going to use the right down mouse button here, and we're going to basically paste that into the deploy subfolder. So as you can see, it looks exactly like we had in the workspace. We have an executable, the XML, of course, that points to the runtime, PBDs. So if I double click the executable, you can see it behaves exactly the same. We have the grid data window, we can do a split screen, and a message comes out, hi from PowerBuilder 2025. But as you can see here, there is no PowerBuilder libraries anymore. Everything's been converted. So in the .pb, we can have a look at that folder. It just has data, which is nothing in it, which I'll explain that. Now we'll see how that gets populated here. And we're going to do a full build. So now let's have a look at the subfolder .pb. We'll notice here that we have now the AST folder has been generated. So that's a new folder there. It wasn't there a moment ago. And notice that we have an AST file. If we open that in my hex notepad, we're going to have a look here and see that it is a binary file. But it has all the tracking information of all those objects, when it was compiled, and the last CRC check on those files. So it knows exactly what it used to look like when that build was done. And we also have a look here that we have the data subfolder now has been populated with some JSON control information. And we have actually the object, which again is the PowerBuilder libraries that are just a folder. And again, now we actually have object code, executable code sitting in here. So if we have a look at that in hex, you can see here it does look like we would see something in a PowerBuilder PBD. So that's what this new folder .pb is. The build, of course, is where it does the actual build of the P code. And we have now the source code, which I showed you before. So everything looks exactly the same. And of course, when I compile at this point, then we have the executable, and it basically behaves just like the workspace. So there's no difference in the deployment, what you had before. So the new compiler incremental build. Information is cached, of course, from the last compilation, which is typically a full build, but doesn't have to be. The forward dependencies, the inheritance backwards and forwards, ancestor descendant are basically tracked. Information about global functions that are being called, especially from data windows, are resolved. The reverse dependencies are inferred from the forward dependency, which again, ancestor to descendant, now we're looking from descendant to ancestor. And the last modified date of all the source code and P code files is also taken into account. The incremental build then actually identifies which objects, only which objects, need to be rebuilt. It identifies modified deleted files based on the file list of the current project, and then puts that information into basically a tracking file that is cached from the last build. It identifies from that file list the affected objects only based on the cached information. And the incremental build then formulates the full list of files that need to be rebuilt when it performs the build process only against that changed list. So here's the actual new compiler flow. We generate a list of what's different from the cache information from the previous build, from both the source and the P code. So we generate a list of changed source code and generate a list of affected P code that has to be rebuilt. Then from that change list on the top right hand side, we see that we only basically action the files that need to be rebuilt. And then we go into the build process, which again is a multi-thread, multi-process activity. And then again, we merge that with the existing executable and PBDs, what gets deployed to the application user. So the performance itself. Look at the difference here between the legacy compiler and the new compiler. In the code example that comes with the install of the PowerBuilder IDE, where you have 388 objects and 194 data windows, 37 seconds to do a full build. The new compiler can do it in 10 in our basic analysis at this point. We have two customer applications that we're working with as well. One with 3,154 objects and 5,348 data windows. 18 minutes, 56 seconds. The new compiler can do that in 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And then the application number 2, where we have a lot more data windows, and a lot more objects, of course, then, of course, that 7-step process in the legacy compiler, 1 hour 31, is now reduced now to basically 9.5 minutes with a new compiler. So you're getting basically 4 to 1, sometimes 10 to 1, or even 30 or 40 to 1 better performance, depending on how many objects you have of PowerScripted versus data window objects. Let's have a look at the incremental build of those same applications. 36 seconds for legacy for a code example, down to 6. Customer app 1, 18 minutes to 23 seconds. And customer app 2, 3 minutes down to 5 seconds. So the nice thing is, if you look at the legacy compiler, where app number 2, where you had 1 hour 31 minutes, I've seen customer applications take 2, 3, even 4 hours to do. So look at the kind of time savings you're going to get here, not only on a full build, but also, of course, really super fast on the incremental builds by looking at those AST active system tree tables. So the new compiler itself, a lot more benefits as well. So much less chance of a PowerBuilder library corruption, especially during a crash, because it's going to be running in a separate process. There are no pubbles anymore. We're going to give you better integration with Git and SVN. And we're going to eliminate the logging of an entire PowerBuilder library uploaded to the source control software. It's going to allow external tools to be used when you want to edit the source. You can even use Visual Studio, for example, if you just happen to have that. It still works with legacy source code control, even, for example, if you're using native. So let's have a look at this incremental build and how it works. Now that we've actually done a full build and we've deployed it once as an executable, we're going to go back here to the test2 folder here, and we're going to go and do an incremental change. So if I return back to the editor here, and we'll have a look and make a couple of simple changes here. One, to the data window, I'm just going to change the background color. So go to Properties, Background, and we'll just change the color. Maybe something like tooltip, so there's a visual clue. And we'll save that. Now I'm going to open the window. We'll have a look at the layout. I'll just drag the message command button down here to the bottom. And we'll save that. And now what we're going to do is select and run. So as you can see here, the application comes up. We see the changes from the source code to the P code. Everything works fine. The grid data window is still working. The command button has been moved. The header of the data window has changed. The message is still okay. So that's basically the incremental compile. Now that's done automatically. I didn't have to do anything. It just takes over automatically in the background. Let's have a look at the project itself where I build the actual executable. You'll notice that even though the original was a full build, it's converted the project now as a solution to incremental, because it's always going to be tracking information as to what it really needs to rebuild based on what's changed. So it's a very, very fast compared to the old workspace incremental. So I'll go ahead at this point and we'll actually deploy it. So let's look under the hood and see what happened. First of all, there's the PowerBuilder dynamic libraries, the XML and the executable. So again, we're going to cut that. We're going to paste that into the deploy folder. So there's the compilation. And we'll do basically double clicking the executable. And you can see here now the executable works exactly the same. So there's no difference in the end result what you would deploy to your actual PowerBuilder application end users. However, if we have a look here, we can see here that the information here has been updated in the .pb subfolder, especially those ASTs. So there would be new tracking information here for the objects that changed, which was the data window and the window. The source code also was actually updated on this side. And of course, when I did a deploy, it went through, compared what's different in those AST files, and then only went ahead and built what it needed to, basically the data window and the window, and then created an incremental compile from that object code. And you can see here we tested it in the deploy folder, and it worked out fine. So next, let's have a look at the new modern code editor. Our goal here is readability. And how to achieve that? Well, we're going to add syntax coloring, line numbers, status bar be enhanced, and a zoom facility, and collapsible code, both in the standard case statements, if statements, and also on custom-defined code blocks. That will be available in revision number 2 of 2025. So what does it look like so far in the prototype? Well, you can see here if we open up the script editor, now you can see line numbers on the left-hand side. Just beside the line number, you can see that there's plus and minuses, so you have expandable code blocks. And we have syntax color. It has been enhanced. And we have the ability in the bottom left-hand side to zoom that whole script, which will make it great there if you're not working on a nice monitor. So continue on with code readability, we have selection and search matching, line selection highlighting, debug highlighting, and error and warning marks will be added in revision 2. So the prototype currently looks like this. So a breakpoint, for example, now is much more bolder on the left-hand side, the red dot. You can see a red dot with the arrow there as to where you are. And the statement is highlighted to show this is where you are in the debugger. Notice that you do a search on SQLCA and it finds the primary one in orange, but notice that it also highlights all the other occurrences in the script in a different color. We also have the ability here to have error and warning marks. Again, this is revision 2, but you notice how it underlines with a squiggle line that the command or the line number that has invalid commands. And we also have line selection highlighting. So when you're actually clicking on a line, you can see the double horizontal gray bars coming across. So advanced code editing. We're going to adding word wrap, improved levels of undo, the ability to select a block of code and make it all uppercase or lowercase. A selected block of code can be increased or decreased or indentation. And we're going to allow you to actually format a selected block of code in revision 2. Notice in the center here, when you use the right-hand mouse button on the script pane, you have the ability here now in the pop-up menu to do advanced code editing. As you can see here, format it. You can comment, uncommented, make everything a block uppercase, lowercase. So that's a real handy feature. You'll see on line number 112, the ability here to assign a long bit of text. Right now in 2022, basically is a long line of text that you have to scroll way to the right-hand side to see the entire textual content. Now you'll be able to see it because it wraps automatically in the script painter. Much more readable. Coding efficiency. The ability here to improve the completion by allowing you to view code snippets and type matching completion. Context-aware information such as quick info, parameter information when you hover the mouse over top of a command line. The ability to refactor code coming in revision 2. So how does that look? Well, you notice here that on line 107, if I type in if, you have the ability now to see exactly the variations that you can select. If you hover the mouse there on the command in line 113, the message box, it says this is a function and here are the arguments. So again, it shows you quick information of what's going on. And same thing here on line 115, you can actually see the parameters as well and the data types for those parameters. You notice on line 118, we use the right-hand mouse button and we can change the actual local object name from task to something that makes a little bit more sense. You don't have to go through all your code one at a time and change it. You can basically go ahead and then just say refactor the code. For code navigation, we have improved find and replace. The jump command has been enhanced. Change tracking has been added. I really like that feature. Air striping, find all references to a particular variable or command. And bookmarks, which is again a lovely addition that I think I'm going to use a lot. Again, find all and the bookmarks will be revision 2. But let's have a look at what it looks like today. So again, the find and replace, again, SQLCA, it shows you everything. In line 109, for example, we made a change to that line, and it puts a green bar in the margin to say, hey, this line of code has been changed. So you'll be able to actually scroll through a block of text and see, for example, where you made changes from the last save to where you're editing now. Bookmarks have been added, which is kind of like an enhanced to-do list that I've been using for a long time. The jump there in the middle and the right-hand mouse button has been enhanced. If you do a find all, for example, you can get reference code. So in the bottom side, there's a new pane, find reference, and you can see here that SQLCA was found in the application object and other objects. You can scroll to that list at the bottom. And then with the error squiggle that you see on line 112 on the right-hand side, there'll be a visual clue that error striping. So again, you can quickly scan through a block of code that looking for that red marker on the right-hand side where you may have problems that need to be fixed. So for question and answer, I've been able to find some questions out there already that people may want to answer to. So will the solution be a mandatory migration step? No, you don't have to migrate off a workspace. You can stay there. It's up to you to choose this new solution type. Can a solution be migrated back to a workspace? No, it's a one-way migration. So once you're there in a solution, you go that way. Will the solution support client-server compiles? Absolutely, but P-code only. Will the solution support Power Client, PowerServer compiles? Absolutely. We never leave those new application types behind. Will the solution support machine code compiles? No, only P-code. So if you want machine code compiles, you'll have to stay within a workspace solution. Will Appeon continue to support workspace development and compilation? Absolutely. Lots of applications out there that require, for example, machine code compiles. Or you create a PBD, for example. You can randomly build a single library, which is not available in a solution. Will the solution paradigm be added to InfoMaker? That's a possibility in the future. We're currently studying that demand for that and how easy it would be to basically retrofit InfoMaker. Will the solution paradigm be supported by PB AutoBuild and OrcheScript? Absolutely. To actually do batch compiles for continuous integration, continuous development is paradigm. Will the solution paradigm support PBR resources in an EXE PBD? Yes, you actually saw that in my little demo there when I created a solution. Will the solution support PBD only compiles? No, you'd have to stay within a workspace. That's the only one that can compile a PowerBuilder library directly to a PBD or DLL. We hope that you can join us at the chat session in Elevate 2023 later on today, and you can ask more questions. So don't forget to connect with us. Now on Facebook and LinkedIn, we actually have PowerBuilder groups. So you may want to join one of the groups and participate in discussions. Of course, we're available also on Twitter and YouTube. There's lots of great education material on YouTube. And of course, don't forget the community, appeon.com, where there are lots of discussions, tech articles, videos, free online training, and lots more. Hope to see you there. So thanks for watching this sneak peek for PowerBuilder 2025. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Elevate 2023 conference. Thanks for watching.